Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Fireman Shop podcast by West Coast Offense. I'm your host, Cameron Monahan. With me again, Colin Kelley, Mark Carcamo. Good morning.
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 Hey, we were discussing beforehand before we started recording for this episode. We've thrown some questions out there, or asked people to throw some questions into us regarding some subjects that we've talked, or just things in general they had on their mind. And we've got a whole list of questions from guys that we'd like to go through today. Kind of just fire them off one after the other and get your guys' thoughts, get everyone's thoughts on what the topics are. Should we just start? Go with the first question?
Yep.
All right. Very first question. The subject of search. It says, there seems to be a fire service shift leaning heavily towards search nationwide. There's maybe a search at all cost mentality, putting everyone from a truck all in for search. What are your thoughts on this trend?
You want it first, Mark?
No, go ahead, dude. I'll add in.
Search has always been a priority. Obviously, it's the main reason we go into burning buildings. That and conserving, saving property. To the question, yeah, I kind of have noticed perhaps I don't know that these individuals all mean to come off like that, or this topic as a whole. And I think that's a case by case basis with whoever's beating that drum. But I would say that it does make you wonder about how balanced their viewpoint on the fire ground is, period. When all you see is search, 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 and so much so is even talking about search, 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 and applying residential search tactics more or less to a commercial building, to me, comes off as short-sighted, maybe a lack of understanding on the true increase of risk on a commercial, larger square footage, open floor plan. Oftentimes, we introduce the life hazard to the building on a commercial fire, and we should slow down. We should get it opened up. A commercial building fire is about water and ventilation and ways out. Search, for me, on a commercial building goes down in priority. It's not to say it doesn't get assigned, but it's attacked from a much more manageable, um, confined. We are now turning that building into quadrants and coming at it from various angles instead of just through the front door. Now, this expectation, you're going to meander through, a 50,000 square foot open. Like, come on, stop it. This is where problems will happen. I think that we need to be very careful in our message on search, that we are still not forgetting that water, search, ventilation, and laddering and extra and forcible entry to make these three things safer is the balanced fire ground. I would like to see, I'm in agreement with the person who asked the question, because I would like to see this search, search, search be backed up with all the other things that make that happen. And it kind of brings me to, and makes me think about something else I've noticed, and that's just, we need to, in my experience, we don't do a good, like, there's not a good job done of appreciating and understanding the relationship between each one of those tasks. Like, this is not an individual's team sport, right? Fire attack is not just about fire attack. There was a relationship between the ventilation to achieve fire attack. Fire attack, there's not just search, it's search. There's a relationship between that fire attack and that ventilation to make that search happen. Like, it's a team sport, right? I think I heard a quote, or a longstanding mantra within the Boston Fire Department that states, aggressive engines happen because of aggressive trucks. Meaning, those guys on those Boston engines know that if they run into trouble, there's going to be a ladder to a window for a way out. That is Boston ladder culture. So that represents that understanding and appreciation of all the supportive roles. To me, the message is kind of lacked that severely. I would like to see more balance.
You say that, 'cause you made the point about the commercial fire, and I look back as a young fireman and the things that were put in my head, because, the question was about that 4-man crew. And do you split, and how do you split if you do that? So that's going to be a question that you and Cameron are going to become the resident experts on. However, I think that balanced fire ground operation um, does not just loan itself to that commercial building. Because I was taught as a young fireman, as the inside guy on the agency I work for, is get the front and back door open. The single family residence we're talking about, right?
I'm speaking of any structure fire.
Yeah, and that's what and I think that's where if we start to draw lines and put ourselves in boxes based on the fire, because we know those things all happen on a commercial fire, on a multi-family dwelling, apartment house, and at a single family dwelling. And if you keep on that same track and know that, hey, yes, front and back doors, right? Because shouldn't that engine guy have that relative expectation that, hey, they didn't just cut the front door and we got inside, they went down the sides, barred windows, all these things that also help occupants possibly trapped inside and can't make it past a fire. That balance is, yes, we put people in there to find these people. However, we can go in there and find them, but if we're hopping in windows, and that's why I find is very interesting, because depending on the actual area you work in, you create a whole different set of issues, second floor included. Okay, yeah, you can throw that ladder up there. Is it barred? Is it barred? Because I'll find that here, and it's like, okay, it's just second floor, and people think, oh yeah, it's, you don't have to do anything there because no burglar is going to get on a ladder and go up there. Horse shit. And it's so you say balance, and I go, the balance is if I can't get in it, I can't perform the search, right? I just can't do that, and that's where I think some maybe they're looking past their nose to spot their face. They go, got to deal with one thing at a time and work yourself from A to Z and hit those steps, because if you don't, you're going to put yourself in a precarious position.
Cam, could I add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen a lot of places that don't have resources stacking up on each other. And there's this adaptation or interpretation of that message. Don't get me wrong. The fire service is a funny thing. I have seen the evolution of it to where, because of social media, because of the training groups out there, there seems to be a much better appreciation of vertical ventilation since, a lot of folks, including ourselves, have been beating that drum. There's definitely been a better understanding and skill set development regarding moving a line and getting to the seat of the fire with water. That has been something that has been very noticeable in terms of equipment, and the techniques and up and down the line comms, thanks to Shoop. Thanks to the guys before, the old school guys, Shoop, Fredericks, Camella, Laguerre, but then he moves on to Aaron Fields and his group of guys. Like, these guys have pushed this and pushed this, and enough drum beating, right? Sensory illusion, right? We don't see something, we don't think about it, but all of a sudden we start to see it, and it makes us ask, oh shit, now we start to see it. And we do it, and we practice it, and it raises the question, how good are we? That same thing's happening with the search. That's a good thing. But there are places, and I'm tying that back into my original opening with the resource limited response areas, departments. If you're an engine company arriving to a house fire and the next engine's 10 minutes away, I have seen some places where, because it's a house fire at 2 a.m., they're abandoning the line for search. I have a serious problem with that. And I'm speaking from experience within my own agency. Some places utilize the term rescue mode. I like to ask my firemen, what does that mean? And it's funny, the older guys, they would say, we're going to diff the line and we're going all in on search. And my own agency is, to my last count, 0 for 8 on abandoning the line as a first due engine company, giving that assignment to the second due. And we're not hurting for resources. So imagine when you are, that's how much longer it's going to be a wait for water. And they get chased out of the building by fire because of open floor plan layouts, right? Because of fuel loading, because of windows failing. And now it's really got all it needs. So, man, if you have to make a choice as a first due engine, you damn sure better be bringing a line. That's not to say if you have enough staffing on the rig that you can't achieve or try to achieve both. There are places where you got 4 people on the rig, but they are in that predicament of waiting a while. Well, damn it, if you have you're rolling up on that house fire, get the line to the fire and then maybe search off of it. But that way you've ensured nozzle water on the fire before just going off and trying to, be do backdraft guy here, just anyways, I'm trying to hit on this, what this message may be doing in places with guys with limited experience, young on the job, decision makers within their organization. I've seen them to where they're abandoning the hose line, and that's a no. I don't care where you're at. First, do engine company stretches a line into the fire. And I'll debate that with anybody. I don't care. I don't care what the scenario is. 18 kids in the house. Stretch a line and put the fire out.
Mhm.
Sorry.
No, that's good. That's good.
So to address that guy's question about what we were just talking about is, so how do you guys do that and make that adjustment with that 4-man and 3-man truck?
Okay, yeah. So that was going in that next question. Splitting a crew. So basically, this is asking about splitting a 4-man crew, right? Um, how do you do that?
The most balanced fire grounds that I have seen, and we're talking about house fires, right? That's majority of what we run. I think that's majority of what the country goes on. That house fire or that shitty, garden apartment fire. You start to lose less of an argument for this as the structure increases in size and potential. But that house fire, like I can go with 2 guys. I can take a guy to the roof and send the other 2 in to support the engine when they have a legitimate fire condition inside so they don't have to worry about dealing with that. And the engines focus, the first 2 engines focus on water, primary line, backup line. I'll take a backup line over a RIT team any day of the week. I'll take a staffed backup line over a RIT company any day of the week if I'm on the inside of that building. And that way those 2 can initiate that search and handle that and take that off the plate of those interior engine companies. That's a very, Sacramento does a really good job of this. Stockton does a good job of this, splitting that crew. But I say split the crew on the appropriate size building.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's that house
Yeah.
fire, Now we start getting into larger footprint houses, these 3,000 single stories on up, heavy, very large volume of great open space. Man, then it becomes, if you're going to do that, it needs to be very targeted. Allow the engine to go through that front door with that line, but maybe you're not going to go so that you use the compartmentation of a bedroom for that in and out of that through that bedroom window. But to try to do a primary search, and I've seen it, and and it happened to us on a fatal fire. A couple kids passed away on this. They initiated the search when they were off in their bedroom. They initiated a search through the front door, and this place was sprawling inside, and it was a nasty, heavy smoke and high heat smoke condition, and very large, tall ceilings. Kind of that really nice, higher end, uh, uh, single family dwelling, a track home, kind of bordering track, bordering custom. And those guys never even made it to the bedroom due to conditions. So now when they were relying upon ventilation and water, vis-a-vis, starting to sound commercial-esque, right? Houses get big enough, they start to sound the way our cause and effect starts to fit more of a commercial standpoint. So that's where we need to do a better job of being unorthodox. I'm going to get the bedrooms searched, targeted. That way I'm fairly well protected. I have compartmentation from walls, rooms, bedroom doors, and I get in and out of that, then on to the next maybe. But I'm sorry, I'm not trying to rant, but I mean, we have to be careful. Yes, I believe that on a house fire, a very balanced approach is splitting that truck 2 and 2, but also keeping in mind, when it starts to change, the footprint goes up, the square footage goes up, man, it needs to become more surgical, more targeted, more thoughtful. And sometimes you may just not be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For us, right, we could be 3 or 4. So it depends on the day, to be honest with you. So 3-man doesn't really allow you to split, right? In most situations, 4-man we split normally, like you said, 2 topside, 2 going in inside on search. But that would depend on the situation, right? Attic fire versus mobile home versus, that all depends there. What we're gonna do, whether we're gonna go topside or not, or whether we're gonna go inside at all, right? So really, generally split in two and two, two inside, two to the roof, and it's gonna be supported by a second dude truck, repeating that on with their truck as well. Um, okay, next question. What kind of qualifications do you personally consider before putting someone in the truck?
So I think that's kind of um, it- I would say it's very specific on that. And the reason I say that is when we get our rookies, they're in their 1 year probation period, will be on a truck company, and I guarantee you he will be top man. And then he'll go through a single engine operation, and then for us, that two-piece engine, which is part of that task force, that's that guy's rotation. Specifically, we know that guy's an auto in, right? So we have to train him based on his not his real skill set, because we don't know that. What they tell me from the academy doesn't mean jack shit to me, because they hand out golden batons now and this fucking smartest guy and the Western Hemisphere, all this shit, right? And it's like, that doesn't mean shit. That just means in his closed condition, that's what he learned. So taking that and going with what do we do for a person that rides a truck company? I came on the job and we had permanent trucks, permanent engines, and you had to, for lack of better words, earn your way into that onto that truck company, right? And that's why I've always said the guys that are really good truckmen already know how to be a good engineman, and they know what that truckman does, right? They have that expectation of that's what these guys are going to be doing. So we do rotate now. So you could get a guy on our job that has zero skill set on that truck, and is biding his time. Hey, I rotated off the ambulance, or it's my truck segment, this and that. So I'd say the hardest thing to do is, or the best thing you can do is present the company's SOPs to those people, take them out regularly, and make sure they understand how to put those SOPs into effect. And that's a very long list, you know. I mean, especially if you're going, okay, type of single families, 1, 2 story, going that commercial building, go that multifamily apartment house. There's a lot of stuff to remember. The good thing about the LAFD is, at a minimum, you're going to have 3 people on the roof, right? So if I got a person that's not exactly up to speed yet, or is not the best truck firefighter, and they're on the roof, I have another guy with me to kind of help pick up the slack on that, right? Or maybe engage and teach at this guy may not have that experience level, and you're getting him to that experience level. So we'll always have somebody there, hopefully that'll help pick up the slack and make that a more successful truck company. But I think those days of that truck expert, I don't want to say they're gone. However, because of the hey, it's my segment or it's my turn to ride the truck mentality that we've turned to, I think that it's created probably not as focused of a truck guy, because all the other things that he has to remember. And then, hey, if I'm coming over for a break versus I'm coming over to be good at it, I think that's also something that plays into it.
Mhm. Do you guys get much choice, Colin, on placing somebody on the truck?
Bribery and a great cook. That's my qualifications. Next question. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, to an extent. Um, Collective bargaining agreements are an amazing thing, but in some regards, they're a hindrance. And I'll leave it at that. No, I won't. I'll dive in deeper. Um, you absolutely, like what Mark said, as the company commander, I will not. It's a constant battle. Well, it's not a constant battle. Once you have a crew built and they're trained and they know the SOGs and they're playing their positions, and things are happening, fire and knowledge and skill sets increased. I'm going to fires. That's a beautiful place to arrive, to be at. But the journey to get there is fraught with a constant tug of war of fair versus right. What's fair is fair, but it doesn't make it right. And I say that from the standpoint of everybody wants a fair rotation, but not everybody is putting in the work to achieve or earn that spot. That's my job to make sure that's happening. However, they have, we all know that that doesn't, that self-study, that those reps, that knowledge increase has to continue away from the drill. You got to keep going over stuff. You got to keep reading. You got to keep familiarizing yourself. And an FNG into my company is not going to be on the truck, even though everybody crosses the floor at my engine, truck, ambulance, house. Um, there's a there's a benefit and a curse to that. But the someone who's been gone for a long time, for whatever reason, illness, injury, um, maternity leave, or whatever it may be, you're not just going to come back and get on that rig. Is this in writing anywhere? No. This is my choice. This is me, my captain, and myself, my partners. This is our choice. We want to make sure we're going to run you through some things to see, knock the dust off. That said, the brand new guy, yeah, it's but this is all that battle against butts in the seat versus qualification, skill set, experience. Then there's the whole paramedic EMS pain in the ass certification you have to play with and make sure that's happening. It's a fire departments have really made it very difficult to ensure that we have the highest qualified people to do the thing it says on our, we put in all this effort and energy on all those other things. But man, the one thing that gets us killed, that kills civilians at higher numbers, they really make it difficult on you to try to make sure that you're firing on all 8 cylinders coming out that barn door to that structure fire on your engine and on your truck. So it is informal, but yes, I do have some leeway as to make sure that you know what the fuck you're doing and saying and talking, and you're on the same page with us before I put you on that rig. Can he file a complaint? Sure can. But I haven't had that happen yet.
Yeah, I think that seat, that especially within where I worked, they've got all these people that are all these task forces, and even the engine companies have got they've become assessment, right? So that means there's a paramedic, there's a seat on that rig every day for a paramedic. Not saying they're not good firemen. I'm just saying that cakes and because for us it's driver, captain, 2 guys inside, as I said, sitting in the cab. One's a top guy, the other guy's an inside guy. He's devoted to inside work, and then there's tiller, right? So one of those 3 seats is going to be taken up by our paramedic, by basically what the agency has set up as the parameters. Yes, you're going to have a paramedic on there, and the engine company now has got a paramedic too. So there's 2 seats that are taken up by a person. Good, bad, or indifferent, right? And I understand the skill set it takes to become a paramedic. I'm not discounting that at one bit. However, I saw that over and over again, last 10 years in the job, and it was like it was a rest day. Okay, it's a rest day. It's okay. It's my day to sleep in. It's my time to catch some Z's, and it's like, yeah, nothing could be further from the truth, because then you do that to me, and I get one of those people, and then I got a brand new rookie. That man, you are really weakening the crew, right? I say that not by design. However, you got to take all that stuff in consideration and go, hey, do I stack it and go, hey, I want the good paramedic, put the bad paramedic on the engine? Nowadays, with the union stepping in, and demanding everybody's equal, we all know that that's the biggest line of bullshit ever. It's not, there's no equal. There's not. Be the best you can be, and strive for that. But when you say, hey, well, this guy's getting his day, and that, I just sit there and go, holy shit. And then I'd have the paramedic sitting on the fire truck making more money as me as the driver. It's like, okay, what in the wide world of sports are we thinking here, right? I think they've cut off their nose to spite their face with this whole EMS thing, and that's a subject for another day. But anybody that says EMS is your moneymaker, I would say, look at my agency and go, well, if it's such a moneymaker, how come the fire department's so broke if we're going out on all these EMS calls? 90% of our calls are, and I say that, what if 90% of our calls were fire calls? How much better would we be? And then at the same token, would those guys be demanding to be on the fire truck if 90% of the calls were fire calls? I don't know that, but it's a good question.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Next question. Do you have a checkoff or skills book?
Yes.
Both.
That's simple. I mean, that should be a non-negotiable, right? Because you say check off a skills level, that's your SOGs. That's that company SOG for that particular incident, right? If you're letting people on your rigs, and we're going to the point where we go, we're so manpower heavy that we don't have to have SOGs because we just know by sheer masses a base will get covered. I think you're selling yourself short based on the area that the station is in, based on the actual companies running out of the station. Those SOGs are totally different. I said this way early on in our podcast. The hardest job in the fire service is the firefighter. Take that back. Firemen. They can call whatever they want. That's the hardest job. You got to wear the most hats out of anybody. As we promote up, we become very specialized.
Mm-hmm.
I would piggyback on that, Cameron, and say, yes, formally those exist, but at the same time, it doesn't need to be formal. It can be informal, and that is just simply, you're a new member to my company. Yes, we have SOGs that I'm going to expect you to know what you're responsible for in a given position. However, I need to know that you can do the actual task. So I start my people off with, okay, throw that 24, throw that 28, throw that 16 out in the open. Okay, how are you going to throw it to the window? How are you going to throw it to the roof? Right? Laddering. And then, okay, let me see you're going to search this. How are you going to search it? What do you know about it? Let me see you operate this saw. We're not going to figure out whether or not you know how to run a chainsaw on the fucking roof with black and orange. We're not, because I've seen the most just dudes that will just perfection on the prop. Now on the roof, under the pressure of everybody screaming, the radio chirping, lightweight construction, and we got a heavy smoke condition, and they just lock up, flood the saw because they're spinning out. Like, there's a fire ground presence that I also, that you need to be able to achieve. That happens with a lot of training and drilling and training and videos and drilling and training and going to fires. You can't never ever account for and just you just can't fix that in a guy per se. But I am going to the best of my ability, make sure that you can do all those hands-on tasks. And then we will start to get into the SOG, and that is, obviously achieving the assignment via all those different tasks.
Well, I to throw one last thing on there, and that is, how does that look when we got a new guy into the station that I was at, and driving the guy that I drove for numerous years? Somebody new came in, and we had a BLS ambulance, so paramedic ambulance and a basic life support ambulance. So firemen rotate on that thing. He would assign that guy to that ambulance. It wasn't as a beat down. It was they're running calls. It's to get out in the district and see what you're going to be encountering. Learn addresses, hey, these are the majority of the buildings you're going to be going into. Are you taking this stuff in and seeing, hey, how do I get in? How do I get out? What a great time to do it, right? Non-emergency, no smoke, no fire. You get to basically do pre-fire plans for a month, and you can start to read up on the actual assignments of the rigs with the fire companies, so that you start to familiarize yourself with the buildings and the type of construction that's in the district, and you're getting better at the addresses and knowing where you're at, so you can have an expectation when you get a call and you're on the fire company, what kind of building you would actually go to. And I think it's a very sound operationally and a wise move to get people to, hey, you came from somewhere that doesn't have this. How do you do this? Look at these things when you're going inside there. Right. So I think it was good training, because you're not just baptizing them by fire. Okay, you're on a fire company today. What do you do? Well, shit. I mean, everything I did was in a flat land, right? So if there was one thing that I like about the BLS ambulance, I don't like guys having to ride the damn thing, but I think it preps them for when they get to come into the fire company. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Good deal. The next two questions, sort of similar, so I'm going to ask them together. The first one was, do you have any books or classes that you suggest? So in general. Next one was, what are some good books, articles, resources to build foundational knowledge of building construction? or groundwork for the ability to safely and effectively conduct vertical ventilation. So books and classes in general, and then maybe specializing in building construction.
Anything West Coast office. Next question. I think book 29 from the LAFD's internal training bureau. Really, as a young fireman, it didn't answer all my questions, but boy, it got me thinking. It generated and created questions that I took and I went after because I wanted to know the answer to them, from building construction, from truck company work. Yeah, and in terms of building construction, a lot of places rave about Brannigan's book. It's funny, I have an original copy that's the size of my phone, first edition. Now they're the size of board games, but there's some awesome stuff in there that really upped my understanding of building construction in relation to load carrying capacity, load transfer, cantilever versus supported, unsupported. That section in that book really, it solidified my understanding of those building construction concepts. There's a lot of extemporaneous stuff in there that I think is just, I don't need to know how far off the ground an electrical outlet is to put out the fire. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to give examples, but there are benefits to that book. But I think a great starting place is book 29 from the Los Angeles City Fire. What a lot of people have taken that straight, stolen it, because it turned it, put it in a Word doc and all of a sudden put their logo on top of it. It's wild. They think that they're slick, but we see you. We know what the hell that is. What was that? What was the first question with that again?
Any books or classes that you would suggest in general?
There's a lot of solid, Jeff Shoup, Nozzle Ford for engine company work. Depends on what you're trying to do, right? If you're trying to do technical rescue, heavy lifting stuff, hit up Blue Collar Training Network. I'm biased, but I think that our roof operations, truck company apparatus positioning, ground ladder class is second to none, because it really is a rig to roof concept that is often left out, which is why we started that rig to roof class. And it gives you the why behind what we're doing. It ain't just, we're just making shit up as we go. This is all experience-based lessons learned from that I learned from Mark. And then after my own time, in my own arena, for lack of a better term, that pre-engineer world, we've really adapted and made something that I think works for the vast majority of the fire surgeons. If you're going to the roof or dealing with the structure around it in terms of aerial ladder, ground ladder.
And I would say for the guys looking for building construction resources, your first due is an amazing book for you that costs you nothing. Because you can go on duty, and what's it do? It doesn't just train one person, it trains the entire crew, especially something that's you can see is starting from scratch up. Watch the phases. Get in there and ask those guys. Those guys are the subject matter experts. Those guys that are building those things are the guys that put these Legos together, and at the end of it, you go, how the hell did they do that? And everything is straight, 90-degree, edges, and it's like, get out in your district. That's probably the number one thing I would say for anybody. And if it's no new construction going on, which I'm having a hard time believing, because just about everywhere there's new construction. Even if you live out in the sticks, they're not constructing buildings the way they used to. They're not. It's going to go lightweight. It's all about money. The second thing, and me and Colin talked about this a little bit, but I see this guy's post a lot, and it's Garden State Size Up. You read into his stuff. I would say don't get in the weeds. Like Colin said, I don't really care how high up an electrical thing is or what the spacing is for wall sockets. But when you look at his schematics and you look at, hey, a wall, just a bare wall, what would that look like? And what do I call those pieces? I think he provides an invaluable look into things that if you're looking for a quick hit, let me look at something, and how long would it take me to look at 3 or 4 pages that he posted on there? The amount of knowledge I gain out of it, if I have no background in construction or don't know how buildings are built, I think he provides at least a starting point, and then it's up to you to get deeper into the construction that's happening in your area or construction that's already there. When you talk about knee walls and these Victorians, and man, that's a whole different animal. However, get out and when you guys go on these EMS calls, look at that stuff, right? If you can get somewhere, open up and look inside of a scuttle, open the damn thing up. Look up and see what's going to be above you, especially the engine guys, right? Hey, what's above me inside this thing when I get inside and pull a line? And the truck guys getting up on the roof and discovering all the other things that could happen. And I don't discount them from looking at it from underneath either. It's like, if I can get a free look at something before I ever catch it on fire, I'm already ahead of the game. I'm already ahead.
Mhm.
I just want to, that is a great page, but yeah, I want to echo what Mark said. Keep it surface level. Some of the things tend to be based on some extremely flawed load carrying capacity test. You can't put a burn time on an individual piece of lumber and its load carrying time, because that's going to vary based off distance, right? Size, weight, and that's always changing. So
Mhm.
some of the things that I've struggled with when I see, oh, 5 to 10 minutes, we've proven that's a myth. That's not, it's not a myth, but it's not a reliable piece of information. You have to use your experience, your diagnostic tools, your saws, all of these things to know when it's time to get out of that area. So I think it's got a ton of great information on there, but again, stay away from the weeds, because then I struggle with some of the usefulness of that information.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that I would have to
But it
add
is a
to
great
all,
page. It is a great page.
yeah, it is for sure. The only thing I'd have to add to all that is to vet your source if you
Yeah.
can, because after being in the fire service for 20 years and seeing, there's a lot of guys that can write an article or put out a class or start a Instagram page or Facebook page. And you need to vet who that is and what they know before you're taking that as gospel.
Thank you, Karen, for
Um,
taking this the other way, because that is a very, very good point. There is you can't swing a cat without hitting a new social media firefighting Instagram page. And who the hell is this guy now, or what are they? Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
and there's
I,
about
if I could just add
2,000
one thing,
training.
Colin mentions book 29, and I think it's become private now for whatever reason. You can't just go on and say, hey, I'm going to open it up and get on there. So if you're having issues with it and you want stuff, get a hold of Colin, through the normal things like espionage and a double steeper probation. I do have access to it. So I'll send it off to him, and that way, if he hits it, it's not going 3 places, and he can just send it off to you. But it's very, very informative. And there's a lot of stuff in that book 29. It's our truck operations manual. It's not just building construction. There's a ton of good information in there. The guys that contribute to it are in service training area, and the guys that did it up to a point, before, our newest generation of guys came on, they were really thinking. They provide great information for guys that want to be good firemen.
Good. Hey, these next, I got to combine two other questions because they're super similar. First one is, what is your vertical ventilation SOG tactics for single family dwelling attic fires? Next one's really close to it, which is, what is your decision making process for venting attic fires? Attic fires and vertical ventilation.
Uh, um, Decision making process.
Or your SOG tactics for just a SFD, single family dwelling attic fire.
I think in general, we're all in agreement here that you need to let that water do its job in that compartmentalized attic, cock loft, truss space, plenum space. I've heard it all, so I'll make sure I'm covering all of the bases prior to cutting a big ass hole in the top of it. We've absolutely seen that fast, aggressive truck companies getting up topside, racing that engine, and popping a big double center inside that residential attic space prior to water makes it a lot harder on that engine to put the fire out straight up. I've been on both sides of that in my career. And right when you thought it was out, shit, it's coming right back at you. Again, we fight attic fires horizontally. We get that line, give it that initial vertical, from the ground hit, but that inside ladder better be coming in there shortly after you're up there and you're bending that line and you're getting that. So I say that from right when I thought I had it on multiple fires, that truck was fast and they opened that thing and it rebounded and it came right back at me. So allow the attic to do the job. I mean, the compartmentalization of the attic to do the job, but get your hole pre-cut. Stop. Watch for that conversion, that change in conditions in the attic. That said, if the fire started in the living space, I give no shits about the attic fire. We're going to make the attic fire worse because we are up there to vent for the firefighters and civilians inside doing the work. That's my operation on attic fires. Heavy salvage, by the way. Heavy salvage. Slow down. Get some initial water in there. Along with that inside ladder, man, bag the room and bag the room from a smart place. And I'll let Mark talk about that, but slow down. It ain't Panic at the Disco just because there's a fire in the attic above you. Give it an initial hit and bag the room before you go ape shit on the ceiling and fuck these people's stuff up, man. People's belongings matter. And oftentimes the contents of their home matters way more than the walls.
Mhm.
I digress.
So I'll add to that and it go, I hate the gangbang mentality of an attic fire, right? And I see that over and over again on these videos. If I see water coming out in a near vertical stream from a hole that's created by the truck company or the roof is burned off, that tells me these guys have not made horizontal access. That these things are things that being good engine guy and understanding how you attack an attic fire, and that is scuttle holes. That's a friend to you. Oh, now they don't have a scuttle hole. Kitchens and bathrooms. That's a friend to you.
Why, Mark? Talk about the kitchen and bathroom.
So if you look at it in the way stuff is constructed, those are going to be your rooms that probably have a tile floor in them. Don't have mattresses, TVs. The stuff is, and I don't want to say waterproof. However, they're wet areas. Yeah. And they're designed to be kind of a wet area, right? So that's why we pick those areas. Probably not carpeted, probably not hardwood floors in there, tile floor, bathtub. What a great catch-all, right? So if
not a main thoroughfare.
Yes, right. You're getting out of the path of travel. You're not dumping everything into these people's belongings because no matter what, whether they're living in a very poor area of wherever you're protecting or in the rich area, that's still their shit. And it's just as valuable to them no matter what their financial, status is within the community. And that is, they want to keep their shit. They do. We don't do them any favors by doing that. So let's say that you, for whatever reason, that you can't pick those things. And I'm having a hard time saying that because every place has a bathroom. Now, is it a closet? Okay. Now you're going to have some issues trying to get that line in there. If that presents itself to you and you don't have that scuttle hole and this kitchen's a postage stamp as long with the bathroom, what stops you from putting that inside ladder at a wall? And I'll tell you why I pick a wall versus the middle of the room. That wall is going to provide support for that guy that's up on that ladder. It gives him a place to put his back, right? And I can foot the ladder now versus in the middle of the room. Okay, now somebody's going to be holding this ladder no matter what. And this guy's in the middle of the room. So you're going to make that hole. You're going to dump that shit at least against the wall. I can keep it contained and I can get him up on side there and get him horizontal and have him put that fire out. Colin says that it makes great sense. And that was my SOP is, hey, cut it. But I'm not going to pull it. I'm not going to pull it. Tell me when you guys access that engine cap. Okay, he's up there. That's when we're going to pop the lid on that thing when water is flowing. So keep that in mind. Don't go water weenie on that thing because you can put it out without a truck company. Absolutely you can. It's how you put it out. It's the devils are in the details. No doubt on that one, right? Where you're not ruining everything and not putting 3,000 gallons of water in here so that every room is going to have the ceiling fall and destroy their shit. And call them again. If you're the second due in on that and you bring that line in as the backup fire tech guy and you get that to the door, you should automatically be thinking salvage. I mean, that should be when they call out attic fire, you should not get off that rig with some kind of covers to help protect their shit. Get that stuff to the center room, throw all their valuables on the bed, and cover it with some plastic. Fuck, man, you just did them a huge service.
And you talk about, it doesn't really matter in that residential space where the attic fire is, because if we get up there in an area like the kitchen or bathroom or against the wall, and we get that line horizontal, we're going to reach it. We're going to reach it. So don't think that I have to get right up under, like, again, uninvolved to involved, but also let's be smart about, that doesn't always work out, right? But let's be smart about where we choose to get that line up in that attic.
Yeah, I would say the best thing is you have time to triage, right? Isn't that the best way to say it? You have time to triage this and go, where is the room that's going to have the least amount of loss if I make this my spot to get up inside there and knock this thing out?
It's funny you say I can think of, obviously I'm dealing with predominantly lightweight stuff, and I can think of attic fire after attic fire, and I'm talking presented attic fire. From the eave line, you get into the home and the smoke's 3/4 the way up, no lower, right? I have seen attack after attack in the hallway at the return, which is damn near in line with the AC on that roof. And that's where you're going to make your stand under the heaviest concentrated load on that truss roof. It makes no sense. We're not using our brains, right? Just because you see orange doesn't mean that's where you should get your line into the attic.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Oh, good point. Good point. Next question. When resting the tip of the aerial ladder on a building, does it matter if only one beam is touching, or do they both need to be touching?
How about it, bud?
This is such a point of contention with me, and especially within even my own agency, when we've dumbed down the position of the operator, and how we dumb that down is we decide that no tip should be touching the building, right? And I would say, watch these fires these guys go to, and they got this tip 6 inches, 12 inches off the roof line, and then ask yourself, well, that was kind of a predicament getting off and onto the roof. How the hell does that look when you're trying to get from the roof back onto the ladder when you got to shit and get when it matters? Tell me how that looks for you. All right. And so I always said with the safety aspect of it, hey, I'm trying to take the bounce out of this thing. So let's address that particular question. That is one beam or two beams. When I was a young fireman, the apparatus we worked on were sea raves. They had an 800 to 1,000 pound PSI. That was all you got. That was it. You look at these things now and they got a variable displacement pump on them. It's got 3 different pressures for whatever you're requiring. And that hoist and lower is strong as hell. Ours was 800, 1,000 pounds. That's it. So I get a long throw, 70, 80 feet out. Guess what? 20 degrees, 30 degrees. I had to have somebody push it off the building for me to gain control of the ladder. How does that look? So I would say this, one beam or two beams. Okay. I tried to throw square whenever I could. If I had to pull pass and throw back or stop and throw forward of the rig, I still tried to throw it at an angle that I could put 2 beams on the roof. That's, to me, it's just the safest operation for my people, and especially if they have to get on the ladder in an emergency to get off of the roof line. I would say the biggest issue for me is, like I said at the beginning of it, is stop dumbing down the fire service. This shit about, oh, you're going to cantilever tip. No, it isn't. That's about an operator knowing how to do that, and that is killing that throttle when they get within 6 inches of that roof line, and kill the throttle and lay it on there and just kiss it. Take the bounce out. And I've heard the argument, well, the engineers say you're going to destroy the beam and this and that. Well, isn't there a bigger issue for catastrophic failure if I leave it 6 inches off when I'm out 70 or 80 degrees, a foot, 6 inches a foot off there? And this thing, as I start to get up toward the tip, starts beating the hell out of the roof line. Shouldn't I be the guy that takes that beat out of it and says, just kiss it, stop bouncing it? Because I can tell you for a fact that it's going to be hitting the same spot a lot of times. So are you going to iron out that beam? Absolutely you are. You're not going to iron out that beam if you just keep it on there and kiss the roof line. So keep in mind, if I can put one on, if that's the only thing I can do is get 1 point contact, just keep in mind, you should keep that balance when you're climbing that thing. Think about that, right? Because if you go to a side that doesn't have the support on it and it's freewheeling, it's off in the air, you're going to put a hell of a twist on that. If I'm walking the supported side, I'm going to put less twist on that ladder. Those are things for guys climbing the ladder, but that's an operator telling the people that aren't attuned to that, or they've seen red and black and they start flipping the hell out. Hey, stay on the supported side, right? As they go up. Hey, watch the wires. All these things that an operator, I think, should have to do. And especially a guy that's acting, he better have that in his skill set and in his playbook.
Yeah, you're talking about avoiding that torsional stress on that unsupported side. And I said unsupported because, and I wish I didn't say that, because we hear this argument supported versus unsupported, and you guys are supporting the latter. Technically, by the letter of the law, maybe, but it ain't supported in the from the standpoint that these people are discussing. Mark said it already perfectly. Kill the high idle and no downward PSIs once it appears that that lower beam has made contact. No more downward PSIs. So kill high idle and no downward PSIs. It is literally just taking the bounce out. And I'll tell you right now, I have been a product of both. I came into my job where it was always unsupported. And then we learned to, after you speaking with the engineers of the aerial ladders privately, you'd be amazed at what they tell you that they won't say publicly. Then on top of that, we started kissing that. I learned that from Mark. And holy crap, when we can't support the ladder for whatever reason, boy, my guys, the guys we all turn into baby deer legs going up that damn thing. It's such a safer operation. And now let's talk about the cadence. As we're spread out, right? 1 to 2 guys per section, 1 to 2 guys per section. That's another thing that we do to avoid stressing the ladder. When it's unsupported, 6-8 inches off, and it's boing, boing, bouncing and smacking that cinder block wall, and that first guy steps off and he's out of cadence with the guy behind him, and boom, the aerial does this. Man, we've almost lost people off the aerial ladder. So I am going to say that you kiss that building every single time you can, square it off like Mark said, for a little firefighter life safety. And the funny part about this is, in my agency, I work on the only aerial ladder that is an aluminum ladder. And it is by far the oldest aerial ladder company of all of them. The remainders are steel, and they're all within the last 5 years put in service. My truck is and we're the only, and to my knowledge, we're one of the few companies that kissed the building, and we've been doing it for 15 years. And my truck passes the ladder inspection with flying colors every time, unlike the other trucks, which I find so funny. And I wonder, maybe that's because you're beating the shit out of it. I don't know. But so much so that the chief officers came to our station and said, hey, man, whatever you guys are doing, thank you. Your rig is in immaculate condition, being as old as it is. Arguably, the aerial thrown the most, because we throw the shit out of our aerial. We get a lot of reps on that thing. And it's the one truck company that's passing its ladder inspection. So your argument of you shouldn't do that doesn't hold water with me. And I think we've seen these pages that are screaming this stuff from the rooftops, and basically all you're doing is copy and paste in the manufacturer's operating guideline, manual. You're not injecting any kind of real world experience, and we see you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes to different levels too with that, and I would say that's like the city that decides, hey, backing accidents are an issue, right? It's kind of along the same lines. Backing accident. Oh, we create a drive-through fire station, so we've dumbed down our ability level, right, by driving through. Because guess what? Now this guy's in an emergency. Hey, I got to back up. Yeah, but I've never done that. Aren't we handcuffing ourselves? Don't we? We're our own worst enemies. We absolutely are. And if we take that guy's thinking process out as an operator, and like Colin says, hey, how do we space out? Hey, how does this all look? And you get, I would say, even with the newer rig, you get out 90 feet, 20 degrees, and this 250-pound guy unweights. And for whatever reason, the other guy's bringing something, could be something like a roof ladder. So he doesn't have both hands on the beams. Another saw, anything, a roof kit, however that looks. And that guy is not ready for that unweighting of that 250 pounds at the tip. We know where it goes. Just travels the beams. Keep that in mind. As an operator, you really need to have your people understand why you do something and why they do what they do when they're climbing it.
There are we have to we gotta do our own size up as we arrive. And then this goes into the previous question about understanding building construction. There are fires in buildings where we need to be very careful on making contact to that roof line. That is, you can't reach the actual bearing wall. The buildings I'm thinking of are, you get screwed on position and you're responding to the roof of a standalone 360-degree mansard style building. That mansard is not in line with that bearing wall a lot of the time. But maybe you can't reach all the way up to the bearing wall. You better be very careful with how much, like Mark said, you're hoisting, you're lowering some of your highest pressure, your highest PSIs. Sounds like what he was saying. And so fire in that space, we don't want to exacerbate that collapse. I think of that the Waldy fire, Mark, back when
Yeah.
that the claim is, for those that don't know, it was a Firehouse magazine cover, and it's all in Station 11's. That's when Mark had to talked about putting 200 pounds to square off that Seagrave aerial in an already burning attic space. The claim is perhaps that helped exacerbate that collapse, that faster collapse. So I mean, we do have to do size up and be smart about what we're doing in relation to the building construction and the fire.
Good deal. Next question. Knowing when to stop ventilating. We emphasize how and when to ventilate, but almost never talk about the trigger points for when we should take a tactical pause to reevaluate our operation or abandon ventilation altogether. Discussing those tactical trigger points would be really valuable.
Go ahead, Colin. I'll let you. That's. I mean,
I love
we're
the
gonna,
question.
we're gonna get the same answer. I know it. It's.
I love the question. I was taught years ago by a man much more experienced than myself, who's on this podcast, that I heard him say a lot. We keep cutting until the condition out of the hole changes for the better, or we can no longer stand in that position. And that's a really point blank simplification of that. But I mean, again, you can get really geeked out on this, and there's that hole. The hole needs to be 10% the size of the interior square footage to be effective, and all this nonsense. I cut to see conditions change for the better, or the engine tells me they're good. Because I mean, ultimately, that's why we're there, right? If they're saying they're getting good ventilation, cool. I'm still going to keep cutting until I can no longer be in that position, right? But we have to make sure that we're cutting. I see way too often. I see sporadic hole placement. Like, we cut one hole, and provided it's in the right spot and the roof is still stable to be there, we keep expanding that hole, right? Forget a trench, forget the strip cut, forget all this other shit. Cut the hole and make it bigger, and keep making it bigger until you can no longer be in that place. And if you can no longer be operating in that place, then who should you make aware that they shouldn't be underneath that air? The engine. I mean, I don't want to overcomplicate this or go on and on, but that's kind of my very broad brush, basic outlook on this.
I would take that one further. And I've had this discussion with chief officers, guys that aren't comfortable on a roof, whether it be the officer that's there or the firemen, that are with you. And I would always say my comeback answer is, so if it's so dangerous, because we're inherently run at probably one of the highest risk careers in the entire country, if not the entire world, but so dangerous for me. What about those guys committed with the hose line down below me? And it's like, fuck, answer your own damn question. Is it dangerous? Damn right it is. We take risks based on training, right? And all the things that have led up to the point that we became what we became in the fire service. And that was very aggressive with ventilation, working in coordination with water being put on the fire. Hey, if it's a bad area, and we've talked about this over and over, even in our classes with people, is like, you got to know when to call something a loser. You have to be able to do that, man. And that's a difficult thing to do. It really is. Because I'm going to quote one of the guys that I just go, hey, the guy's so fucking smart on this shit, is Joe Castro. And what he said on a podcast that Cameron sent me. And it made so much sense to me, because I go, I'm guilty as charged. When shit's not going the right way, what do we do in the fire service? double down on stupid. It's not going to fucking beat me. So we double down on it and we throw more resources at it, or we double down on the amount of work we're trying to get done. And it's like, wait a minute, what's your retreat policy? What's your plan B when it's not going right? What's your plan B? And that is, hey, sometimes you got to be able to pull back and go, hey, you know what? I need to get to a spot that's safer for my people and maybe start a new hole, and, or, hey, you know what? This is a lightweight roof and it's past the point of, of us doing any kind of good up here. But I would also say, I hope they have that same trigger point for that engine company inside. And then again, I will say, and be upon this timestamp that you get from dispatch, you guys better pay attention to that, man. That is no bullshit. You better pay attention to that and go, and this relatively of this timestamp coming on, when I got here to what it looks like now, has it gotten better? Am I making a difference? And I will say for sure, if it's getting bigger, it's not one thing that you're doing. It's a combination of things. However, that also means that it's a bad spot for that engine to be in. So keep that in mind.
You're reminding me of making it bigger, right? Like, we absolutely have experienced when that BC in command did not do time on a truck company, an aggressive one, does not have a lot of roof experience under legitimate fire conditions, so that when we actually go up there and do the job we're supposed to do, and now there's 30-foot flame links out of the hole that we cut, versus it being all, it's like they lose sight, or they forgot firefighting 101 all of a sudden because they're not comfortable with what they're seeing and they want you off. The funny thing is, not funny, but the interesting thing is, the ironic thing is, oftentimes they'll pull us off when we have sound roof we can retreat to with a hose line now. And we're often, it just happens in lightweight construction with a good going attic fire that the truck will be oftentimes the ones that put the damn fire out because the engine can no longer be underneath that system. And so you're going to pull off the company that is the eyes and ears for the engine company aside, the cheerleader for them, right? Redirecting their streams if they're not getting it, letting them know where the significant loads are. And then also, hey man, they just couldn't get it. We're going to open up that line into that attic and we're going to put it out. That happens. That's not why my line's up there initially, but the truth is it absolutely gets opened up into that fire within that truss space. So, there just doesn't seem to be a true appreciation, like putting your money where your mouth is with vertical ventilation. And yes, it's going to look worse. No, I'm going to rephrase. It's going to look more visually stunning before it gets better if we're doing our job right. Maybe that's a better way. But shortly thereafter, we better see that money shot. We better see those hose streams, right? That's the clock. That's that climax of that incident.
Good deal. Next question. We have tons of training on how to build great truck firefighters, but very little on how to be a good truck driver or truck supervisor. As a new captain, I've been relying on leadership books and past experiences, but there's not much structured material out there to learn from.
We're writing the book. Don't worry. It'll be out in the spring of 2040. I'm joking, but at the same time, if you're looking for that type of information, come to us. The guy on this podcast, you got 2 truck captains and a very experienced apparatus operator. So, we can provide, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but this is something that we've put a lot of energy and focus on. Art.
I would say you have to find, and I listened to something the other day and it was great because the guy said, get outside of your own world.
Yes.
If you're not finding it in your world, get outside of it, right? Seek. That's the thing, that you got to go out and find something or someone or an agency that has expertise on it. And I understand it because there's a lot of agencies, in that 25, 45-year-old range. Well, that's very young in the fire service. It is, based on my experience, right? I came onto a job that was like, that's like getting 777s first buck a roll. How bitching is it, right? You got these guys.
Yeah, but Mark, it's young from a cultural standpoint.
Yes.
In that fire department.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at. It's like, that doesn't mean you can't create that system in there, right? And that is, you go and educate yourself if you need be somewhere else, and bring that, right? So you start creating that culture and those repetitions for your people and making them understand that, hey, here's the why, right? Here's the why. This is why the why comes along. And I would say, touch bases. Don't be afraid to touch the bases. Guys want to go from first to home, and I hate that. I hate that. They don't unpack their bags and go, okay, I'm very young and I promoted young. Okay, that's great. I don't have a knock against that other than, did you really learn as much as you could so that when you stepped into your new role, whether it was as driver and or officer, were you actually ready? Did
Right.
you feel like you had the experience level to lead a company at that level? That's a very difficult question to ask yourself. I really do believe that. And that's not, I think everybody's got a different scale that they have to grade themselves on, but that would be one of the things I would ask myself. Hey, am I really ready? And then the second thing is, if I'm not, and I better get my ass out there and find people that I can attach myself to and say, hey, listen, help me. I want to be better at this. And that's a good thing that somebody reaches out and says that, help me. Good. Now it's a matter of getting, hey, what do you know and what you don't know, right? Because I think the bigger part is what you don't know. That's the kind of shit that gets you in trouble in the fire service, what you don't know.
No one agency does everything excellent. So off what Mark said, yeah, absolutely. And in this day and age, I mean, it's all out there. Get out there and learn from agencies that have been doing a certain task the right way for a very long time. Learn, reach out to those people. Right. In this day and age with internet and social media, like you can pretty much have a conversation with anybody from any fire department.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you get the places that haven't been in business forever, but they're smart enough to know we're going to model ourselves. Now, you don't have to copy a department one particular way. That's something that burns my ass is when somebody comes along and they just go, hey, we're going to follow so and so because they've been doing it for 100 years. Well, I would say, do you have the same manpower they do? Do you have the same amount of truck companies? Do you have the same amount of engines? You got to take what you learn and formulate it so that it works for your agency. That's what you got to be smart enough to do, is take this information and go, how does it fit into the puzzle that my department has laid down? How do I do that? Right? Don't just take something as blank and go, hey, we're going to take this and apply it over here. Well, you'll find that probably won't work for you. If the information is there now, it's up to you to disseminate it and go, how do I apply it where I'm at?
Mhm. Next question. It seems like the culture in my department and others nearby is that the truck needs to ask for permission from the engine company to ventilate. Until then, they're standing by. I'd love to hear a discussion on shifting that mindset where both companies expect each other to do their job in a timely manner and only coordinate when something is delaying progress, like a double roof or forcible entry issue. I believe that's when communication really matters so both sides can adjust. But I'd be interested in hearing your perspective on it.
It is not the truck company officer's job to micromanage and pay attention nonstop to I'm not going to sit there and call the engine every 2 minutes to see how's it going, how's it going, how's it going. I have enough to watch out for on the roof. So he said it in his own question. It is incumbent upon the individual officers in a given area working to let everybody else know, swallow your pride. All right. This is kind of goes in line with the mentality of identifying a loser. It's not a loser yet, but this is something that might be heading that way. You need to make everybody else aware that you've tied your hose line in a bowline knot. You can't get through the front door. We can't open the roof because it's a double roof, a rain roof, whatever roof over. I mean, it's not everyone else's job to be checking in on the other assignments. It's incumbent upon that person. And that the coordinated fire attack is simply about timing. It's not about radio comms. It's not about Mother May I. It's not, man. Like, I think that the truck company is the easy target when the fire doesn't get extinguished. When you say we arrive, engine and truck, to a house fire and it's a working fire, no doubt about it. And we're both sent off to the races, roof and fire attack. And the fire doesn't get put out. We cut that hole in support of that engine company. They never said anything was bad or not working out or slowing them down. There was no delay responses, communication. We did our thing. And then they're not putting the fire out. And overwhelmingly, fingers get pointed at the truck company. And it's like, wait a minute. What the fuck happened to the water? We did our part. We did our part. And this idea that early vertical ventilation is the same thing as early horizontal ventilation is not anywhere near the same thing. The reaction time, the cause and effect on the fire condition inside from an opening in the roof occurs much slower than what a window being taken near the fire will do to the interior conditions. This flashover, causing flashover, that will happen in that initial, compartment if you're cutting over the fire, but that's already probably happened, right? Flashover occurs in these present fires, 30, 60 seconds. I don't know all the times anymore. I don't pay attention to the timeline. You get a little too caught up in the times, probably means you're not going to fires, but use your eyes, use your God-given senses, and this coordinated fire attack where we're Mother May-ing to cut the hole, to punch the ceiling is just doesn't make sense to me. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater because they read, I don't get me wrong. UL has, again, like Brannigan's book, it's given me a lot of understanding for some things that I otherwise wasn't sure about. But there's also limitations to that information, and the people that created it may or may not have the most notable fire experience, and they're lab rats. And you can make anything happen in a laboratory, an experiment. I mean, you can't. So be careful. Everything in moderation. Take the information in moderation. But I think the coordinated fire tech things, I'm in total agreement with the guy that asked the question. It's gone too far the other way.
Just, I would say the biggest thing is he said it in his question, because he makes all the points that I would say, and that is, I have a reasonable expectation that if a truck's coming to the fire, they're going to put a hole in the roof for me if your agency is doing vertical ventilation, right? Just like I'm hoping that as I'm getting up on the roof, these guys are going to put water on the fire. They're not going to stand at the front door and squirt water inside, right? And I would say the caveat to that is when that communication needs to take place is when there's a delay with either one of those two operations with the people that are involved, that guy cutting the hole or whoever that these departments put as a supervisor, right? But I would say if one of your guys is the lead hook, it's tough to do supervising duties and be the lead hook and talk on the radio. So, but just I'd say if there's going to be a delay with water being applied to the fire, I think that company that's going vertical needs to know that. However, flip the coin, and if there's going to be a delay in ventilation and these guys are committed inside, I think those guys inside need to know that. That's as simple as I can put it. Otherwise, to me, it's about reasonable expectations, knowing the people and the companies that you run with, and what is their level of aggressiveness in their particular genre, and do they practice that, right? Because if you're a company that's not going to fires, and and the engines are going a lot of fires, and the truck gets there because it's truck poor, however, man, it can cause some issues. I would say that, and I would just leave it at that, or else we're going to beat a dead horse. But just if there's going to be a delay on either one of those sides there, just let that guy know inside there. And it doesn't have to go through the flippin' IC. That bullshit to me. It's, hey, that's like me having, okay, hey, is it okay? I've cut the hole. Is it okay to pull it? And then it's like, I want to know that guy that's working in there. I want to talk to him. What's he doing? I don't want the delay of going to the street. That's bullshit. It is. It's bullshit. That guy, and I should be listening to the radio. However, if I'm running the saw and I got a 2-man group like Cameron's kind of faced with sometimes, 2-man ventilation group, I may not hear that order with that saw running. That's why I'm taking it that guy to step back for the safety to let me know, hey, they're having an issue getting inside. Okay, might have to make an adjustment here, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Good deal. Try to get through a few more questions here before we end. I know we're getting up there on time.
How long we been going?
I think just over an hour 15, somewhere about there.
Maybe we push just a little later, a little deeper than we normally go. Get through some of these questions. How many? We got a bunch left, Ken?
Yeah, no, I got about 45.
Just knock it out.
Let's knock it out.
Yeah, got it. In apparatus spec part 1, what does Mark mean by lay one, drag one when talking about supply lines?
So for us, if you know anything about LAFD, and that is, in a task force house, there's two engine companies. One's a fully manned engine that is usually involved in fire attack. And then there's a 200 series engine, and that 200 series engine follows that truck company. It's got an operator on it. It's an engineer. And if they go out single, so if that engine company gets an EMS call and that truck and that 200 engine are sitting there and there's a fire call, we'll put one of our people on there. It's normally the inside guy. And he'll go with that guy to help him lay that line and secure water. So let's get into the two-piece operation. So we call them two-piece hose lays because it's a it's a engine company and a 200 series engine company. All of our supply lines on those task force houses have a package of hose that has a seat belt with a quick disconnect and a loop on it or a hook. And so I say lay one, drag one. When these guys that have the acuity look at something and go, hey, this is going to be a campaign fire and we're going to need a lot of water. We know that we're going to be in master streams, ton of water being flowed. They'll either go tailboard to tailboard, right? Because we have hooks on both rigs, and one guy will go over from the engine company, unhook the four-way valve, the connection, bring that sling and clip it onto the back of the engine that's going forward to the fire, while the other fireman will do the exact same thing, disconnecting the four-way valve, come and clip onto that engine. So now he's laying his own line to the hydrant and he's dragging the engine's line to the hydrant. So right off the bat, they're going to get two supply lines. And they'll always address the one that they're dragging first. That engine company that is going to the fire, they'll address his line first. They're his 4-inch supply line. They'll plug that one in first, but it's just a quick way with guys that are heads up of getting two supplies on board right off the bat.
There you go. Also in apparatus spec part 1, what does it mean to dress the line after stretching from a bulk bed? What specifically should the driver do?
I mean, it's what drivers do at every single fire right on that bulk bed. And that is, you don't want spaghetti sitting anywhere in this hose lay. And dressing that line means not loading it and going, oh shit, look at all this horse shit and these kinks. It's like dressing the line before you loading it means make that smooth transition of that water out of that pump to the end of that nozzle without there being kinks or issues in it. And that's that driver's job. That's just my impression of it. That, that operator. But again, that doesn't take away from the guy that's pulling the line. He should be looking at his line when he gets it up there and going, hey, am I going to have an issue the minute this guy loads that line? I may be 200 feet away from him. Am I not responsible for this first 50 feet? At a minimum, I say yes. Right. So that's what it is. It's just ensuring that the flow is not interrupted by kinks or, caught under something at a corner that's starting to pinch off the actual water out of the pump to the end of the nozzle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question. What is the certification process for the tillerman position at your department? Is the position an AO, engineer, firefighter with a cert? What is it?
So at my particular fire station, and I'm going to step out on the weeds here and say, I would say every station has some kind of a step-by-step operation that gets you into the tiller bucket. So if you've never tillered before, the first thing that we require is, hey, you read up on our book 29 talks about tillering, right? And how you achieve the actual spot of being certified to tiller. The second part of that is we make a guy observe for a minimum of 3 shifts tied into the tiller bucket back there. So he's not going to fall up in case something goes crappy, but he'll start to observe, hey, this is what this guy's doing, how he operates back here. And then the next step will be that you feel comfortable enough as a driver that you say, okay, hey, let's do this. And then we go out in a parking lot, set up cones, take this guy into an area where him hitting something isn't going to cause any damage to the fire truck. And then lastly, once he is certified that way, then we'll take him on non-emergency calls to go, hey, we're driving to the market. Hey, we're driving to get fuel. And we'll put him in that bucket to see how he reacts. And I will tell you, anybody that's being certified for tiller bucket, I watch these videos of these guys, and to me, it's just total horse shit, man. The worst thing in the world for me is to look back there and see that I'm driving this rig non-emergency so that this guy does the least amount of work as possible, and I'll try to transfer that into emergency driving. And I see these guys leaving quarters, and they got this gigantic apron, And as soon as they pull out of corners, the tillerman's back there doing arm exercises. It's like, we were taught a lazy tillerman is a good tillerman. Tiller only when needed. This overcompensation shit, man, is going to lead to accidents. That's just my take on it. And then the last thing is, to get this tiller certification, you will also be asked about, now I'm certified tiller. Okay. Do you know everything about the fire truck? All the things that we require a driver to do, an acting driver, we're going to require that tillerman to do. And especially the things that he fits into operationally, litter basket, all the things, you know, center hallway fire, single family dwelling fire, just Victorian fire. It's a huge playbook. It's not an overnight, okay, you're certified, here's a sign of the cross. It really isn't. And then it actually comes down to the operator and that captain going, yeah, this guy's got it, or hey, no, he doesn't.
And what happens if he doesn't, Mark?
Continue training. That's the best thing I can come up with. It's just, you know, some guys may not be ready after 3 times sitting up there. And I would say it's a comfort factor too, right? Because it's a huge responsibility. The issue becomes in the state of California, any accident that tillerman may have caused or been in from that 5th wheel back is still the driver's fault. I know, happened to me, total bullshit thing, right? So I'm responsible for the accident report. It goes on my driving record. So keep that shit in mind, guys, when you're the guy up front and you're going, okay, yeah, hey, you're certified at whatever station. Yeah, okay, you're good for my station. Keep that in mind.
This kind of reminds me of that what's fair versus what's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because on the what's fair part is, well, only person getting fucked is the driver that said, okay, yeah, put him up there. Whatever. I'll take a chance. Man, you would talk about a missile going down the street, and you guys have watched that coming in intersections and what we do with those TDAs, and it's, oh my God, man. One wrong move, you know, and I put that in it. They get to a busy place and go, hey, it's your 5th run after midnight. Now it's finally a fire. Did he do the right thing? And I tell guys all the time, hold the fucking wheel. Hold the wheel. That's what you need. That's your responsibility, is hold the wheel. And I would say probably even bigger than that is the backing in part. That's why I'll get to that. And that is, man, you get and I'm sure you've seen it, Cameron. It can go awry in a hot shit second, right?
Yeah.
Because backing up, you know, guys get this idea. It's like these big turns, and it's like a small movement will take that trailer and push it. You know, I mean, where you go, how the hell did that happen? Because the guy doesn't understand what's going on. Going forward, hands 10 and 2, going in reverse. And I try to teach guys, when you pass the wheel, you don't do the Brody turns on that. Pass the wheel. Small movements equal very large. How am I going to try and put that? A small movement can cause a very large reaction in the back.
Ours is super similar, right? Like everyone out of truck house off probation is gonna get tiller certified, all the firemen. But that's a bidded position on the truck, and so they could bid it once they're certified. But they have to go through the rodeo over the road. They have to go through some roof operation scenarios on a roof or on a prop, and then they get certified to do it. Our next question. Yeah. Good deal. Good deal. Has to do with checks. So it says, I apologize for not necessarily having a question. However, I'm hoping to pick everyone's brains on apparatus maintenance from the driver perspective. I knew Mark when I was an explorer at 11s and was always fascinated with the pride he took in his apparatus. And I wish I could get some nuggets from him, anywhere from detailing the rig to preventative maintenance and just daily checks and setup.
Starts with pride in your rig mentality, right, Mark? I mean, you got to give a shit about your rig.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I hate to say this, the bitchin' polished rig is secondary to the operationally safe rig, right? And that comes down to, I say again, is in the morning is having a program for daily, weekly, and monthly checks as a driver, right? You got to understand what that's all about and hold yourself to that standard, no matter how tired you are or what you did the day before you came into, you know. And it's like, if you, like anything we do in this West Coast offense thing, where we try to teach people, is if you do the same thing every time, set yourself up on an outline, you'll be successful, because your body goes and your mind is the same thing, right? It goes into this overdrive mode. Hey, I'm tired, whatever. We're busy in a one-legged man ass kicking party, you know, and I'm still haven't recovered. But it's what you do when you get there and go, keep it the same. march on the same trajectory. No matter what you're doing, you're probably going to be successful. I mean, I could go on and on, but it's like, it's one of those things I will tell you that once you become good at the mechanics of it, right? And understanding what things do and how they work and how to troubleshoot something, then you'll be better at the non-emergency part of that, right? And that is keeping it up. And it's just, for me, it was just a matter of pride, right? I'm at a very busy fire station, but to me, I didn't allow myself to go, well, okay, we're busy. We're so busy that I can't do anything. And it's like, I just think it's a bullshit cop out. I just do, right? They give me this thing that's worth now $2 million and it's going down the street looking like a fucking trash truck. I just didn't buy into the concept. I didn't like it. That's just me. So
I want to piggyback on the mentality thing. I said that initially, and it's very obvious when a guy is just a chauffeur for the day versus the guy that gets in the front of that rig and knows that rig, cares about that rig, takes pride in that rig. It's glaringly transparent, the two. And I always take notice when the mechanic is there to fix a problem and that driver comes out, meets with him, and then goes inside the station and kicks it. Get your ass out there and understand what he's doing to your apparatus, right? I spent a lot of time with my mechanic. We love the guy. He's the best. I'm on my back with him under the rig trying to understand. I wasn't a driver long term, but I want to know what's going on with my apparatus. It's my job. I'm the company officer, but apart from that, I give a shit about my apparatus. And to see guys just check out and go, man, you're just a driver, dude. You're just a driver. You're not an operator. And that's that mindset, man.
yeah, and I guess to help that guy along, if he just wants to, I can send him some bullets because this will turn into a fucking, I mean, it'll take forever. And I say that's a good 10 minutes of talking of just what to do in relation to your morning checks versus your daily, weekly, and monthly checks, right? And and all the other things that go along with it, just for the apparatus. I wasn't even talking about opening compartments and looking at stuff. So I'd be glad to entertain him, and Colin can handle my email, and I can correspond with him and kind of give him what my thoughts are on those things. Mind you, I've been out of it for a while, but I think I could still go in there and do my operation because it was all about me doing the same thing every single day. So I knew what I was doing and what I was trying to achieve when I was doing it. I would say be purposeful. That's probably the best thing I can say.
And you're going to hear a lot from these surrounding companies of when your hand tools, the heads of them look great, when your apparatus looks great. Boy, and I love it when we hear that, and we're a busy ass company going to fires and our shit still looks great.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. What's your excuse, fucker?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, last question here. It's a new engineer here. Any tips on how to become a badass engineer?
Don't promote too soon. That's for starters. Learn the job of a firefighter. You'll have such a greater appreciation on what it's like to pull that line, from a positioning standpoint and pumping standpoint, right? What's Mark say? 150, pump 150, bake 350.
That's all you got to know. That's it. It's fucking simplified.
So making those lines hot, actually understanding what's going on there with the hand lines. But I would say, again, that it's very limited. But working with my own guys, man, memorize your district. You can do that before you even get the assignment. Memorize your district's maps. And hopefully it's not, hopefully it's like this. But obviously that changes a lot of places. But you can, Mark, you always used to he taught me use an acronym to memorize those majors going both directions. Memorize the district, man. Memorize the district. Study and understand how to move water. That shit is all out there. And then apply that to your own rig, because your own rig is going to have your own pump, and your rig is going to have its own personality. So, but understand how to move water, man. We leave a lot of water in the ground inherently. Understand how to maximize that hydrant.
And I would say more importantly is know what is underground, what you can and cannot do based on those main sizes, because that's your limiting factor. It truly is. You can know a lot of shit about pumping. You better know a lot about what's underground and how to tap what's under there. Resource wise, I would say also find that guy within your department. And if it's not within your department, again, I say go outside of that department and find the people that have been doing that job for a while, and ask them the obvious shit, right? Because it sounds like he's already a thing. He goes, hey, how do we become a badass engineer? And I say, be a fucking sponge.
Yeah.
Be a sponge and don't be afraid to get your feelings hurt, right? If you can do that, you can take a lot of stuff that guys do, because I mean, there's crusty old drivers that it's like, I get it, but man, what you can learn from those people by just picking their brain. Hey, what do you do on this? What do you do on that? Why do you do that is the big thing. What is the why? That's what you should be looking for, is the why. Not just the, hey, I did like this. Well, why did you do that? And I think you'll have a better understanding of whatever that is. If you're crossing the floor and you're an engineer, that's, hey, I can go from driving an engine company to driving a truck company. Man, to me, now you got to pull double duty. You got a lot more shit that you're responsible for.
But when those guys accomplish that, they are the best engineers I've seen, because the guy that's going to the engine, never having worked on that truck, not understanding the positioning plan on that truck, they don't have an expectation as to what that truck's going to need for positioning. You need to have a positioning plan on your engine, but you need to understand the truck's positioning, and those need to marry each other.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Because once you understand that, then you'll be less apt to pull up and block that ladder bay, that tunnel, right? And you'll understand the inside versus outside spot for those rigs, the reach of the aerial ladder, just all those things, jack placement. How does that look? There's a lot to it, man. And the guys that have to do double duty, fucking, hey, good on you. Thank God I didn't have to do that. That's all I can tell you.
It sucks at first.
Yeah, that's a lot to remember.
I think you were talking about this the other day, Mark. Eventually, I'm glad that I've had to cross. I hated it at first, but now at the end of my career, it's made me, I think, a better firefighter all around.
Yeah. You truly you understand both sides of the coin, right? That's what I would tell you.
That is the last question, guys. Thanks for going through all those. Thanks for sending them in, guys. Any final thoughts from either of you two before we close it out?
I would say that just to repeat some shit ad nauseum that we said for me, and that is, no matter what you do in the fire service, if you're not getting outside of your own four walls, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I learned that kind of way late in my career when I went and taught for the first time with the West Coast offense and started watching what these other agencies bring to the table, because you become kind of shielded and understand that, hey, yeah, we do it the best, right? Because we all want to make sure, or we all want to believe we're doing it the right fucking way. That's what I will say, right? And for me, it was a kind of an eye opener to go, okay, there are other ways of doing things, and you start to watch what these guys do, and then listen to their thought process. And some of it's bullshit. Believe me, some of it's bullshit. I mean, like, what? Okay, what does that do? However, when you find the guys that know what they're talking about, you'll see them. You'll gravitate towards them. You'll see that, right? And you get that common bond. You'll see that, because they understand where you're coming from and you understand where they're coming from. And it creates, I think, where you, that person that's well-rounded in the fire service, not well-rounded within your particular department.
I want to say thank you to the show. Has been received surprisingly well. Cam, I think you can speak to that, but I want to say thank you to the people spending the time to listen to us rant and go on and on. We welcome your feedback. What can make this show better? What's a topic you haven't heard yet that you want to hear? And I want to say right off the back of what Mark said, a lot of fire departments are still very young, right? We mentioned this earlier. You're in a prime position in this day and age with everything technologically available, that you can pick those skill sets that all of these busy fire departments do, right? This department may suck at water, may suck at fire attack, but they're great at search. This department may suck at search, but they're great at roof ops. They're great at, whatever it is. You are in a day and age where you can take that information, cherry pick all of that, and bring it to your and make your fire department the baddest ass fire department, most well-rounded fire department in the country. You really can. I mean, this is the day and age we live in. So you'd be foolish not to do what Mark said. Jump on, find out what's going on outside your walls. Find out how other people do things. Find out.
Yep, 100%. Again, we'll try to do another one of these in the future. So if you get questions, just send them to that westcoastoffense@gmail.com, and we'll hit them up in a future episode at some point.
Yeah, that's
that's
the westcoastoffense@gmail.com, or you can send them in the DMs. We prefer to get them all in one spot, so we're not chasing them everywhere. But we also check the DMs from time to time on the social media stuff.
There you go. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.